In a quiet village tucked between rolling hills and whispering forests lived a boy named Kabir. His mind was bright, sharper than most of the other children, but it was also uncontrollable. Even the simplest tasks felt like climbing a mountain because his thoughts darted away before he could grasp them. He would try to read, but soon images of cricket matches, video games, or distant daydreams would flood his mind. Even the gentle hum of a spinning fan could lure him away from his books. Kabir's father often observed his struggles with a mix of concern and frustration. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the village in orange and gold, he sat beside Kabir on the wooden porch. "Son," he said gently, "your mind is like a wild horse. It has great strength, but if it runs without direction, it will throw you off. Learn to guide it, and it can take you further than you ever imagined." Kabir nodded, but his mind was already elsewhere, imagining himself winning a game of marbles against his friends in the village square. Days passed, and Kabir's distractions grew. One morning, his father decided it was time to seek help from someone wise. He led Kabir down a narrow, winding path that cut through the edge of the forest until they arrived at a small, serene ashram surrounded by tall banyan trees. There, sitting cross-legged under a spreading tree, was Guruji, a man whose calm presence seemed to quiet even the rustling leaves. Kabir's father bowed respectfully and explained his son's problem. Guruji, with a gentle smile that creased the corners of his eyes, nodded. "Bring him to me," he said softly. Kabir stepped forward nervously. Guruji handed him a small, crystal-clear glass filled with water. "Walk around my garden with this glass. Do not spill a single drop," he instructed. Kabir tilted the glass carefully and began. At first, it seemed easy. The water reflected the sunlight like a tiny mirror. But as he took his first steps, a bird swooped down and chirped near him. Kabir's eyes darted to it, and a tiny ripple appeared in the water. Then the leaves above him swayed, letting a few dry twigs fall, and he jerked to avoid them. Each movement sent more water spilling over the sides. By the time he returned, the glass was nearly half empty. "Why did you spill so much?" Guruji asked calmly. I got distracted," Kabir admitted, his cheeks burning with embarrassment. Guruji's eyes twinkled. "The glass is your goal and the water is your focus. The distractions are the world around you, pulling you away. If your mind cannot stay steady, even the simplest journey becomes impossible. Discipline it, and it will carry you wherever you wish to go." For the first time, Kabir felt a flicker of understanding. That night, lying on his thin mat, he thought about the glass and the water. He decided he would try. The next morning, he woke early, feeling the weight of determination in his chest. He set aside his phone, cleaned his small study desk, and sat quietly, attempting to read a chapter of his textbook. At first, his mind ran wild, pulling him toward thoughts of friends and the games he loved. Each time, he reminded himself of the glass of water. Slowly, he began to notice a small change. A few minutes of uninterrupted reading felt like a victory. By the end of the first week, Kabir had developed a simple routine. He woke at dawn, practiced a short meditation while the village was still bathed in misty silence, and devoted his full attention to his studies. Even though his mind wandered, he gently pulled it back like guiding a wild horse along a narrow path. A month later, the villagers began to notice a difference. Kabir's attention in class improved. He remembered details he had forgotten before, and even his small daily tasks were done with care. But deep inside, Kabir knew that mastering this skill would be a long journey, one that would test his patience and resilience. The following months were a test of Kabir's patience more than anything else. Every morning, the village would awaken to the crowing of roosters, the chatter of neighbors, and the distant rumble of carts on cobblestone paths. While other children rushed outside to play, Kabir remained in his small sunlit room, meditating for a few minutes before studying. The wind would brush through the open window, carrying the scent of wet earth from the nearby river, and for a moment his mind wanted to wander. But he remembered the glass of water. One afternoon, Guruji invited Kabir to walk with him through the garden again. This time, he did not hand him a glass. Instead, he led Kabir to a low stone bench near a small pond, its surface reflecting the sky like a perfect mirror. "Close your eyes," Guruji instructed. "Tell me what you hear, what you feel, what you see in your mind." Kabir hesitated, but as he obeyed, the world around him seemed to grow louder, the distant laughter of children, the hum of bees, the rustle of bamboo leaves. At first, his mind jumped from one sound to another, a chaotic storm. But then, he remembered the discipline he had been building. Slowly, he focused on each sensation, one at a time. The laughter became just a sound, the bees a pattern of movement, and the leaves simply swaying. By the time he opened his eyes, a strange calm had settled over him. "You are learning," Guruji said. "A mind that can notice distractions but not be consumed by them is a mind that can achieve anything. But this skill must be tested." Days later, the village announced a local problem-solving contest for young boys, a challenge of logic, memory, and quick thinking. Kabir's friends encouraged him to join, some teasing him that his mind was too restless for such a competition. Kabir's heart pounded, but he remembered Guruji's words and agreed. The day of the contest arrived. Inside the dimly lit hall, boys shuffled papers, whispered, and tapped their pencils nervously. Kabir felt the familiar urge to glance around, to see what others were doing, or to daydream about finishing early and running outside. He clenched his fists briefly, visualizing the glass of water in his mind, one question at a time. One thought at a time. Hours passed. Some boys grew frustrated, some panicked. But Kabir remained steady. Even when he didn't immediately know the answer, he didn't let anxiety take over. He read carefully, analyzed, and worked through each problem methodically. By the evening, the contest ended. Kabir felt exhausted but calm. Guruji, who had come to observe, gave him a rare, approving nod. "You see," he whispered, "discipline doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger than chaos itself." When the results were announced the next day, Kabir's name was at the top. He had not only solved all the problems, but had done so with clarity and precision. The villagers cheered, lifting him onto their shoulders in celebration. Yet Kabir's eyes sought Guruji's, and the old teacher smiled quietly, a glint of pride shining through the wrinkles of face. That evening, as Kabir sat by the riverbank, watching the reflection of the moon ripple on the water, he realized how far he had come. It wasn't just the contest or the praise, it was the mastery over his own mind. For the first time, he felt that no distraction, no fleeting desire could take him away from his path if he chose to stay focused. Months turned into a year, and Kabir's reputation in the village grew. He was no longer just the boy who struggled to focus. He was the boy who could quiet his mind, who approached every task with care and thought. But Guruji knew that true mastery required more than routine and small victories. It required facing unexpected challenges. One humid afternoon, Guruji led Kabir to the top of a nearby hill. The wind whipped across the grass, tugging at Kabir's loose hair and pulling at his clothes. Below, the village looked small, almost toy-like, and the path down was steep and rocky. Guruji handed Kabir a bowl filled with fine sand. The end.